A lot of people who just get into climbing use rental shoes, and today we're going to see how good are rental shoes versus some more expensive shoes. So rental shoes, I think I paid $4 for one session, and the shoes that I have, I spent over $200 on. This is the easiest climb that we are going to do today. And first up is the rental shoe. Now, this route didn't require a ton of technical foot chips, but there's a heel hook as you see, and there's a couple places where I do have to trust the feet to give me enough pressure to push up on, including this little spot to the end. But so far, so good. The rental shoe is doing its job as a climbing shoe. Now, we have the $200 climbing shoes on the first easiest climb that we're going to do. And of course, they are climbing shoes that are meant to be climbed in, and they are doing just that. They are very grippy, they are keeping me close to the wall, they have aggressive soles, so I'm able to dig into the foot chips, and it went about as well as I had thought it would. This next climb was a bit more of a challenge. It is on a slab, and there are some even smaller footholds for these rental shoes. There's also a lot of smearing, at least there's smearing in the beta that I use, and I thought that was really helpful to test out some of the rubber that these climbing shoes have. So you might have noticed my foot has already slipped off a couple times, and I smeared there, or attempted to smear there, but I didn't quite get the traction that I wanted to. But it is worth knowing that I got just enough traction that I needed to get to the top. And that is more or less what matters. Versus the $200 shoes that were able to just stick onto these really small holds. You'll notice in a second that I do successfully smear on the wall right about here with my right foot, and realize that that left hand isn't good. And then you're going to notice that I smear up with my left foot in a second, and realize that, wow, that is enough, more than enough to get me to where I need to go. And that was a huge difference that I noticed in this particular route between the rental shoes and the $200 shoes. Now, of course, I'm in the rental shoes and I'm trying to check out this route and see where some of the spots that I might get hung up on are going to be. But then I decided, well, let's just send it. Now this spot right here, I have to trust that left foot a ton to give me enough leverage to get to that right hand hold. And then here, you're gonna notice that, wow, these look like big holds and should be able to trust, but they're slopey. And this is on a pretty aggressive overhang. And this is also the hardest route and was most intimidating for me in the rental shoes, but we did manage to get there. Now, of course, the $200 shoes were up next, and I was feeling quite confident in climbing this route because I had just done it in rentals and had to trust my feet a ton. And again, these shoes are doing exactly what they need to do. This is one of the reasons that I spent a lot of money on these shoes, because I can trust them. They do exactly what they need to do. There's no faults in the rubber, and they just are able to be climbed with. And frankly, that can also be said about less expensive shoes. I know that I had spent $60 on a retail pair of Mad Rock climbing shoes that are supposed to be a budget shoe, and I climbed some really difficult routes in it and was able to develop the trust in them. And the only reason that I got rid of them was because I actually lost them. I left them somewhere. Otherwise, maybe I'd still be climbing in them today, because you can resole climbing shoes. And that's another reason. If you ever find a pair of climbing shoes at Goodwill or one of the other secondhand stores, there's always the option to resole them, which is super valid for many climbers. Even if you have an old pair of shoes or a pair of hand-me-downs that you really like that fit your feet really well, then feel free to resole them. So here's another route that I had to trust the feet on, at least at the start. It was a dyno, so the first start was challenging with the rental shoes, but the second half was actually less so trust about the feet and more so about upper body strength. So here I am brushing the holds, of course, because I was having some issues holding on to this volume. But you might notice that the feet are pretty slippery. They've been greased up a lot by other climbers, and I had to put a lot of pressure onto them to get enough oomph to get to this next hold. And then the volume right here on the right foot wasn't great because I had to, again, trust the foot, and then I had to launch up to the next hold. I keep getting surprised time after time about how well these rental shoes are gripping onto these holds. Maybe there's just a lot of stereotypes about how bad rental shoes are, but these were great.
So here's what we learned. Number one, if you're a new climber, rentals, there's no shame in wearing them. Rentals are actually decent shoes made by decent companies. They performed almost as well as the shoes I had. If you noticed, I did struggle on some of the smearing, some of the smaller holds. I also struggled with trusting my feet a little bit, but all in all, they were good shoes. Now, despite the shoes being a fantastic budget option, I did notice a difference between the rental shoes and my shoes that I spent $200 on. There's noticeable difference in underhang and stepping on crimps and foot chips. I noticed that I didn't want to trust my feet in the rentals when I was smearing on the wall. But all that to say, they're an awesome option for a beginner climber. And even more so, if you have never climbed before and want to go to a gym, these are great shoes for you. For those who have done the rentals for a while and are looking to upgrade the shoes, there's some cheap, inexpensive shoes for you. I made a video on a $5 pair of shoes that I found in a used bin, and they were fantastic. Way better than the rentals.
Because not every gym is going to have a bin full of really nice, expensive climbing shoes that have just been used for $5. But if you're a beginner, rentals are great. And then if you want to upgrade your rentals, look on Facebook Market or look on Craigslist for a pair of $15 shoes. With that being said, I really appreciate it if you drop a like and subscribe, share the content. It helps me make more videos like this and supports the channel in more ways than you could ever imagine. Thanks.
Really appreciate it.